Hello, hello, everybody. My name is Darren Kent, and I am the Chief Communications Officer of the A.M.E Zion Church. I'm dressed real relaxed today because I'm going to be with my brother and good friend, Reverend Kaloma Smith, and we're going to get into that one second. But listen, we're doing this movement called Media Minds. And it's with you in mind, all your media and tech questions and things that you might have been trying to find answers for during the pandemic that you might not have gotten assistance with. Yeah, we're coming out of it as best we can, but we still need to know what we can do in a theory kind of way, but we're also like the practical as to how we get these things done. And this is going for your organizations, for churches, for any type of brand that you might be considering in the future. This can be applicable to all that. So we just coming to you. We're going to do this every first Tuesday of the month. I'm like I said here, and I'm going to bring on special guests every single month, and we're going to answer your questions. If you have any, you can throw those in the chat, or if you just want to look at this on replete or on demand later on, that's available to you as well. We're going on all the African Methodist Episcopal Zion platforms, and the soon to be A.M.E television will be live soon, and we'll be on that just as well. But let me stop stalling here. I want to bring my brother and friend on. His name is the Reverend Kaloma Smith. I knew him for years. I don't even know. I got to get him on to find out how long we've known each other. Met in Mount Vernon, New York. He's doing amazing ministry in Palo Alto, California. You tell me a long time ago, with this city brother being in Palo Alto, California, I don't think he would even believe it. But he's doing amazing ministry out there with the University A.M.E Zion Church. And I'm bringing him on just as a tech guru, taught me a lot of what I know, and is just able to transform a ministry that began with little to nothing digitally to where it is today. So let me bring my brother and friend on right now. Reverend Kaloma Smith, thank you for joining me. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, Darren. It's always good to see you. You're grown now, so I can't go with DK. I remember,
Still be DK.
I remember when you came to Greater Centennial from the Baptist Church. This is almost 15 years ago. At this point, 15 to I think
Plus.
16 years, 15 plus
Plus.
years. No, it's got to be closer to 20 years at this point.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We're getting older. Like, look
We're
at the
getting
beard,
old.
the hair is growing in. And you had the passion for video, and you really, with your inquisitiveness and your desire to see ministry go higher, pushed me to look at ministry. I remember we were one of the first churches to install screens, and then we did the video cameras. Your first church video was shot in my apartment. I remember that. You remember that, right?
Oh, I should have bought that video. Oh my goodness, they would love that.
Yeah, we gonna find that, because if anybody saw that today, they would know who we were. It was rough. It was rough.
Rough, humble beginning.
Humble beginnings, but we are here. I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to share from a practical perspective. I'm sitting in my sanctuary. You see all the lights and everything gleaming. As I shared with you earlier, when I got here, it was a white wall with the print shop banners on the wall. We had a choir loft where two people sat, and there were 16 or 17 of us. Right now we have 125 regular members. We have probably 60 to 70 people that are in the regular tender giving column, and then we have another 30 to 40 that are just digital members. So the ministry has grown dramatically in the past 10 years, almost 10 years. And the interesting thing is, we were forced to look at digital because Google and Facebook and everything are just less than 5 miles from us. And we lived in a space where the digital economy was significant. So we had to sort of figure this out. So I'd love to go through the experience. Kick it back to you.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna keep it light today. I said, we would start off when we were talking in the green room just a little while ago. We would start off just to getting to know you a little bit, right?
Mhm,
Your journey to even becoming a pastor,
mhm,
to from coming from the tech world and what you were doing beforehand,
mhm.
and give us a little preview as to how you got to where you are today, and then how you were able to use your life before being a pastor in your
Mhm.
current role.
So, yeah, so I spent my 20s and 30s, early 30s, working in audio video integration. We did such projects as the one of the major rooms at the Freedom Tower that
Mm,
people go in into an exhibit. We did the Plaza Hotel. We did the Stanhope Hotel. I led a company that was award winning. By the time I finished my career, I was running a company that did audio video integration on a really high level, nationally recognized. We were on Channel 4 News, NBC nationally. We were on the cover of magazines. It was a great run, and it was great being the managing director that took a company that was bankrupt when I got within 90 days of bankruptcy and
wow.
took it all the way to national prominence. One of our one of our biggest jobs, like the capstone, was $5 million in one person's house.
Wow.
I know we as a denomination have a $7 million budget, but we spent
One person's house.
one person's house, $5 million, and so out of that, I came into a church, and I did my trial sermon when I was 33. I prayed to God. I said, God, can you allow me to be in full time ministry by the time I'm 40? At 37, I got a call from the bishop of the area at the time, Bishop Darren Moore. He said to me, Kaloma, there's a church, it's struggling. You can come out. You're most likely going to have to work. I talked to my wife. I took a 98% pay cut. I took a 98% pay cut. D, you know how I lived in New York. I've never got on a bus or a train. I drove everywhere. So the church was nice enough. They rented me a little house down in Santa Clara. I got an air mattress, and I took the bus from Santa Clara every day up to Palo Alto, which was like an hour bus ride.
Mm.
Then I would get and I would walk. Then I would walk. Yes, I would walk about a mile and a half, 2 miles from the bus stop to the church, and just started. Somebody said 98%. Yeah,
98%.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. My I remember when I got here, my weekly paycheck was $236. That's all the church had, and that's the best they could do. And one of the ladies came back to me. I wrote my $23.60 tithe check, and they were like, Pastor, we don't pay you that much. You should have tithe. Like, I had to trust something right now because it's
Yo,
working. But 9 years later, we're in a lot better place.
a lot better.
God has really blessed us in a major, major way. We've become very media and tech savvy. We have an amazing team, and God's just blessed us over the past few years.
Listen, the story is incredible because, when I think of even my career, we began, with the passion, with the desire to start to do things in the secular world, and then the way God kind of brought it all together, right? And just allowed us to still be able to use our gifts, our talents, our abilities, things that we've been doing our whole life that we find easy, and then bring it to the church environment. And there's a bit of a challenge there, a bit of a learning curve, and then we're able to bring people along in that world. Tell us about that, like how you were able to encourage, inspire, and to lead by example, and sometimes in that space, to say, I've seen this done at a high level. I've done a $5 million house. Now
Mhm.
let's try to get something done on another level inside our churches of quality, which is what we should be doing all the time, right? We shouldn't be giving God our seconds, our leftovers, or anything like that. We should be putting our best foot forward. So tell us a little bit about how you do that from a pastor's perspective.
So I'll tell you how I failed at it first,
Okay.
because I think it's so critical to share that. Thank you, Sister Smith. She's on our communications team from the West, and she doesn't know how special she is. I so when I came, I came from a corporate environment, and my wife would tell you, I had a staff that was very into where I was leading the company, the direction I was going. So it was easy just to talk and so do things, and they would catch up later because they had experience with me.
Right.
You get into the church environment, and I started doing things like Facebook pages and email lists and changing this and changing that, or this, that, there. And the thing that I found out within 3 years was that it wasn't sticking.
Mm, mm,
Um, and I'll be clear, I put it on all the A.M.E Zion channels, and my friends liked it. This is another thing we have to be clear on: what does social media do for us? Is it just for our friends in our denomination like it, or is it really an outreach tool?
right.
And God really spoke to me, and He says, Kaloma, you have to put a vision, a mission, behind what you're doing, so all the things that you say make sense to the people in the room and the people outside of the room.
Mm,
Because I taught myself Photoshop, I was doing flyers, I was out there all the time, and I got some growth, but it wasn't like anything crazy. And then I started saying, okay, one of my mentors sat me down and said, Kaloma, everything you do should be cycled through the main values of your church. What are the main values of your church?
that's it.
And I said, so he sent me back. I did some homework. I said, it's reach our community, reach people, care, and grow. So everything we do at university, from marketing to ministry
Mm,
to outreach to budget allocations,
mm,
are cycled through. Does it reach our community? Does it reach people? Does it care for people? Does it grow people? Does it meet one of those pillars? And if it doesn't, we're looking for at least hit 2 or 3 of them. If it doesn't, then it's probably not the right thing for us to do.
right.
So we came from a church that was doing a lot of flyers, to looking at creating content that matched the vision of reach, care, grow. If you look at our feed, even over our social media feeds over the last 30 days, it's all been about 30 days of prayer matching up with the vision. And if you look at all of the items, I wrote the curriculum for the prayer, you will see that they're all based on reaching people, caring for people, or growing people.
Mm,
It's that simple. So our 30-day of prayer, which dominated our social for the last few weeks, meets those needs. So we were very clear. I mean, I can't stress this to churches. I can't stress this to leaders. I can't stress this to people. You've got to have
yeah.
that core thing that drives your church. The one thing, I'm not that smart. I'm really not. So I
Give
don't,
yourself some credit, brother. Give yourself some credit. Come on.
and I'm not that super creative. So I don't come up with a new theme every year.
Mm,
We've been doing Reach, Care, Grow for 7 years now.
and it's working. Why change it if it's working?
Change it. It meets our core values. Everybody comes through the building. I preach a sermon series on it almost every year. We focus, like this year, we're going to focus deeply into care and community and building community in the church.
Yeah.
And that's going to be our focus. During COVID, we spent a lot more time on reach and our digital outreach, but you see, it still meets what we need. So if I was to give the first advice to people, figure that out. It costs you nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just some time and effort, right?
Some time, some effort. It gives you consistency.
That's right.
And it allows you to speak to people in your community, in your church, as you do your budget.
That's right.
That makes sense. As we grew, we started outsourcing pieces of our reach component.
Mm,
But because everybody in the church that was on the steward board membership understood that reach was such a significant part of what we do,
mm.
the allocation was not hard to be approved
No.
because they understood it.
Yeah.
We we've grown a lot. So I'm just saying, we were in the middle of COVID, and we ordered so much stuff that we don't use today, jibs and cranes and this and that. But everybody was like, how do we reach people more? How do we make music videos that reach people? How do we do sermons that reach people? How do we do snippets that reach people? Like, that was the sole focus of the organization. And people were willing to get behind that during COVID.
Wow. Wow. Listen, when you bring up the story that you just brought up of how you need to have that core value, right? That underlying theme, right?
Mhm.
I have background in film. I didn't finish film school like most of us that deal with film, but I definitely went through a whole bunch of courses and I've been watching movies my entire life. Listen, I have a desire to always want to know what is the underlying theme to anything that's going on there.
Mhm,
If I'm consulting with somebody, if I'm
mhm,
trying to just say, listen, if we're talking about a campaign or anything like that, you need to know that, and you don't necessarily need to say it out loud, but everything that you do needs to be geared toward that. Right?
mhm.
It needs to be focused in one direction so that you're trying to convey that underlying theme at all times. Explain to us, once you get that underlying theme, then building your story around that so that it all comes full circle, right? Like telling the story through
Mhm.
the visuals, through the live streams, through everything that you do, which is supporting what you've already identified with that background work that you said is free in the underlying theme. Tell us about the story now and how you build that.
So I want to say one thing. One of the things I personally believe is that the pastor's face shouldn't be on everything, or his name.
Preach,
Um,
preach, doc.
at university, we post every day, multiple times a day,
Yes,
and there's two flyers: my birthday and my appreciation that they'll put my face on it. Because let
it.
me tell you what's more. And I am not TD Jakes.
That's right. And you
Uh,
know that,
and,
right?
and
You-
listen, I am not TD Jakes. But I preach at conferences with thousands of people.
right.
I've done those different things. Like, I have a great following in the Bay Area. I have a great side gig as a speaker throughout the Bay Area. But my face doesn't matter.
Mm,
What matters is community. So
mm,
we take a lot of photos. Photography is my hobby. We gave two people in my church point and shoot cameras, not super expensive,
mhm,
and we would take pictures of kids and people hanging out. The preacher standing up front. Every church can show a preacher.
mhm.
How many churches can show community
Community.
and people and life happening?
Mm,
Let's be clear. As we come out of COVID, people can watch whoever they want to watch.
that's right. That's
The
right.
advantage of small and medium-sized church that we can offer to people is community,
Community.
is the coming together, is those small interactions. Humans interact on three levels: general, social, and intimate.
Mm,
The reality is intimate happens in our house,
right.
and general happens through news and politics and all those different things, and concerts and those different things.
True.
But social, for most people, ends once they leave high school or college.
Mm, wow. Wow.
What does the church do? Is it creates a space for those social interactions. And let's be clear, Jesus designed his ministry this way. He
Mm.
he could have walked on water, lifted mountains, did everything by himself, but he felt like he needed 12 knuckleheads around him so
Yes.
that he could do community. And then when we write the New Testament, we see that 70 to 80% of the text deals with being in community.
Community.
And right now, as we come out of COVID, I don't see too many introverts.
Mm, mm, mm.
People say like, "Oh, people tire me." No, what people are now realizing is that although people tire me, I still need interaction. I can't stay in my house every day. I can't just sit in the house by myself all the time. Even if you exhaust me, I still need to see the dominance, the presence of God
God.
in you. And
God.
church and small and medium-sized churches can do that better than any mega church, better than any large church. Listen, I
Mm,
last month we've probably brought in 17 people.
mm. Wow.
10 of them came from mega churches.
Mm. Why? Because I'm
Because
gonna let
there's
you tell it, but why?
community,
I know why. Go ahead.
because there's community in the building.
Community. That's
And
right.
there's love and building. Listen, I'm gonna tell you,
Mhm.
DK. I was
Intimacy
shocked
too.
this in the middle of this year. We have a lot of Asians that come to our church, but then I started seeing a whole row of people, and I'm like, where are you coming
Wait,
from?
wait, wait, wait. I gotta cut you. Asians? You
Yeah,
got you got you.
that's my fastest growing category in my church, DK.
Your
I don't know.
demographic is Asians, and you're the African Methodist. Am
And
I
I
hearing
haven't
that
changed
correctly?
yes, and I didn't change it to the U. I didn't change it to university. The sign outside says
Mm.
University African Methodist Episcopal
Methodist
Zion Church.
Episcopal Zion
And
Church.
I'm gonna explain some stuff around their story and our story, why it works.
Yeah.
But I started talking to them, and they said, we go to the River of Life Church. It's 2,000 member Asian church on the highway down the road. I'm like, why are you coming here? Because you're speaking to injustice, because your people are nice, because you took interest in us when we showed up.
Wow.
You know, all of these different things are drawing this demographic from a church that is filled with people that look like them to a church that looks more like the kingdom of heaven.
Yes, all of that.
So,
Right.
and you know, it's interesting. I'll share this a little bit nugget.
Yeah.
1.5 and second generation Asians, particularly after AAPI hate, and particularly after they've been marginalized in corporate and job settings, are starting to identify with the African American story, because the myth of the ideal minority has been shattered over the last 3 years, when people start calling COVID that horrible name, and that the defaced Chinese. And let me tell you, spend some time really getting to know people. I will share this with you. I taught at InterVarsity on Stanford's campus. InterVarsity is you know, a group, and it's mostly white and Asian. And I started teaching, and then as I was teaching InterVarsity, I started getting a group of Asian students in my church. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. I went, and I said, the first week I was like, oh, I thought they were visiting for a paper. So I was nice. I was just nice to them. And then they came back a second and third week. And I didn't think I was like, I'm not that great of a preacher. I need to know why. So I said, you know what? I called the ringleader up. She's one of my mentees still. And I said, what's going on? I'll buy you pizza. And I thought I was going to go one Thursday night and do pizza with them for 2 hours. I ended up spending 20 hours on campus over the next 5 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Pizza, just hearing their stories, not trying to convert them, not trying to convince them, just hearing their stories and understanding their culture. And I spent time there. So like I said, everything we do as far as reaching out in media, you don't know who it's impacting. We had a couple join. So, you know, God continues to build things. We had a couple join last week. She's from Singapore. He's 1.5 Gen Asian. They have been struggling to find a church in the Bay Area for the last 10 years. They saw sermons and sermon snippets from 3 or 4 months, and they just kept watching us, and then eventually came and saw us, and then they were like, I'll join this church. So there is, when your media starts lining up with your mission, start being impactful, and it starts changing the very nature of your church.
Yeah, that's good. Media lining up with your mission. When your media lines up with your mission so well that you also want to share it, right? Like I always tell people, that's one of the biggest, most powerful buttons on Facebook, right? Or on any platform, period, is the share button. When you feel so good about the word or whatever it is that you're hearing, where you hit that share button and you want to tell your following about what's going on in this space, in this church, with this pastor, whatever it may be, you've got them. You've got them. But to get to that level, you have to have that community that you were talking about, right? And that starts not just on social, but connecting the social to the actual person. The you can't imagine having the social be magnificent. The church looks amazing online. How many times have you seen this? Website is spectacular. Got the best of the. You walk through that door, you got nasty Christians greeting you at the door. You know, your pews look all raggedy and disgusting, all the way up until the third one to the front, which is where the camera begins or something like that. Like, I mean, and it's like, I'm never coming back here. And guess what? That works against your ministry at that point, right? It takes away, it detracts. Just like we go on Yelp And what do? We talk about the bad food that we got somewhere more than we talk about the good food. Your church is going to be on that Yelp list, and they're doing that more and more. So how do we stay away from that, Reverend? I mean, take us into now, again, building this whole thing and try to make it as plain as possible, taking us from inception of a ministry like this, media wise, like you understand, you identify what you're good at, right? You know who you're not, right? You're not Jakes, like you said. Then you begin to lock in on emphasizing that and having that convey that across social media, and then being able to delegate it right properly so that it stays at equal quality across board, and then an actual flow starts to happen and things begin to happen even without you even doing it, right? Take us through that. Like, I don't want to speak too much more for you, but take us through that process, brother.
Okay. So let's start from two things. You can put anything on a flyer and look good. I see some amazing flyers. Right. Like, listen, I think I see flyers better than I do, but I'm dead serious. But when I tip into this live streams and stuff, it doesn't match. Please try to make the reality and the marketing match. That's why we do a lot of photos, because you can't fake the reality. Okay, number two, you talk about your internal reality. Let's realize we market to a couple of different people. We market to our internal people. Okay. We market to those in our denomination. It's just natural. We're connectional, so people are going to see it. And then we market to our community, and you've got to decide at what phase is your most important customer. So for us, our internal reach is done in two ways. The first is your emails and how you talk about your church from the pulpit on Sunday morning. I heard a story once where a pastor of a small church went to a mega church, and he said he was there for their 1 hour service, and 20 minutes talked about how great the church is, how loving the church was. They definitely patted themselves on the back. And when I heard that story, I'm like, what is the message? This is part of media, because now you're live streaming, right? So what are you saying about your church to your church on your live stream?
Right.
You know, I'm always talking about the good the church does. I'm always talking about loving. I barely touch finances from the pulpit. We will do some sermon series and talk about tithing, but we don't harp on, I need a new boiler, I need this. No, we don't do that, right? Because we are trying to talk about the goodness and the quality, and people like hearing about that. Number two, we send emails to our church, and in those emails, we talk about the good stuff, and we talk about all the opportunities, so people feel like they're part of something. The third thing we do is we text our people. You know, one of the things I do is once a quarter, I will text everybody in church and say, how can I pray for you? Be surprised, okay?
Now, this is not a mass text, or is what is how you it out? It's a mass text, but then it's coming back to you, and then you're responding to that text, right?
Yes. And like even on Sundays, we have a mass text number that comes to my phone. So when it's prayer time, I will actually type responses to the people that ask for prayer.
That's right. That's that community. That's that connection. That's it. Yep.
And like when I send that out, it says, "Dear so and so, how can we pray for you?" Wow. And these people, they start, and I respond to every single one. The other thing we do is on my personal social media and on my church social media, we try to respond to everybody.
Why is that so important?
Because there's two reasons. Only 2 to 3% of people are going to type a response. If they have gone out and publicly typed something, I want to publicly support that, because I'm not that big. I'm not TD Jakes. I pastor a mid to small size church. So I have time to respond.
Yeah. Right.
It's not about me. It's not about my likes. It's not about my ego. It's about building community. So I respond to everybody. We try, even if it's a birthday and I get 500 comments, I'm trying to respond to all of them. It might take 3 days, but you know who told me that? Althea Brown. Althea Brown responds to everything, and she's so good. But it's But you know what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
so good to be mindful of people. Social media is not a bulletin. It's not a billboard. It's a community thing. So just responding to
Give it
people will change the whole thing.
fast.
So that's way. The other thing we decided to do is we decided not to market to our denomination.
Why'd you do that? Tell us that. Tell us the reason behind that.
I'm not trying to go anywhere.
You good? You comfortable, right?
I'm comfortable. I love my church. I love my community. But what I realized is even if everybody in the A.M.E Zion Church likes my stuff, how does it change my local community? How does it change the thing that God has charged me to, which is the people in the church that I pastor?
Wow. Wow.
It's
So
nice if y'all like it. I'm
nice.
grateful if you like it.
Mhm.
But I spend more time, like all of our marketing dollars, advertising dollars, Facebook dollars are designed to reach 15 miles around my church.
That's it. That's it.
Because that's where God's planted me.
The
That's
community you've been charged with, right?
when I
That's
get a document, it doesn't say Kaloma Smith is the pastor of A.M.E. No, it says I am charged to the University African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church in the city of Palo Alto, California, and that's my charge. When I start talking about reach, I'm skipping over the stuff that is instant gratification and going right to the stuff
right.
that is this. You know, I'm going to share something.
Yeah.
When COVID started, I used to share to like every A.M.E Zion group, and it got my view numbers up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I share to my page, my digital campus, and some local groups like Bay Area Christian events,
Yeah.
because I'm more interested, even if I only end up with 30, 40, 50 views.
Mhm.
I'd rather A, increase the amount of time I'm being watched,
That's right.
and B, increase the impact that is local to me.
That's right. That's right. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, you're spot on, brother. I mean, you like I said, been doing it, but I want you to speak a little bit to doing this, and as you put on earlier and told us earlier, not like messing up through this process, right? Like you learned by making mistakes, right? In my ministry, I made plenty of mistakes, right? I remember one time I was at a conference and my phone was connected to the computer,
Mhm.
and somebody called me, and I'm like piping it through the entire conference. My phone goes off in the entire conference. It was, I mean, the most embarrassing thing. But there are things like that that you keep learning and keep
Mhm.
evolving and keep like trying to be better and speak to the, I'm always coaching ministries to, once you get your theme, don't just throw it out there one time and leave it there. Debrief on it, talk about it, get them back in the room again, come together, see what's working, see what's not working, and then be able to move forward. Speak to that a little bit, if you would, bro.
So I went to a conference the other day. They did a retreat. Somebody flew us all to Colorado, the 40 most influential Bay Area pastors.
Wow. And you on that list?
Yes, I was on that list.
Fist bump, bro. Fist bump.
We had the CEO of Intel speak and some other amazing things. They took us to the mountains. But one pastor up there said something to me really critical that blew my mind. He said, I tell my team on Sundays to create beautiful things, not perfect things.
Wow. It's different.
So I will say this. Technology changes, or teams are not super technical, and there ought to be the same way in our, one of the great things about Methodism is checks and balances, right? We have quarterly conferences, we have annual conferences, we have general. So why don't churches build in mechanisms to review their technical piece? So right now, I have 2 meetings in my week that are specific to reviewing it. Every every Monday night at at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. We just switch the time.
Okay.
We have what's called a worship planning call,
Mm.
and on that call, I've got tech, class leader, deaconess,
Mm.
choir members. When we started, we had 80-year-olds
Wow.
and young adults. It covers the whole range of our church, and we start talking about what went well, what we didn't like, what's upcoming. This year we're working on actually improving our planning process to be less than 4 weeks out to more than like 90 days out. But
Yes.
but we had to start doing that because a lot of what you see, this background, the lighting, all of this came through iteration and understanding that things change, our knowledge changes, we learn new things, we have to try new things. And I'd say the number one thing I could tell people is fail forward. If you're walking up a trail that's going uphill and you fall down and you fall forward, you're still going up. You
Love.
didn't, was it a comfortable up, but
That's
you're
right.
still going up. So fail forward. I will share with people. Justin, the head of my trustee board, used to sit there on the left side and hit our slides when we just had a big screen right there. And our first live stream camera was $109 webcam, and we worked that thing. We worked that thing hard. We got mounts and tried everything, but it taught us like what are the best angles, where things go.
Yeah.
And as we grew and evolved, there was a lot of things we learned. We learned a lot, but it required us to be honest and evaluate ourselves. There were Sundays where we had a scale. We have a sheet that we use, and we had a scale of 1 to 10, and people would be like, we did a 5.
Mm.
This mic didn't work. This camera didn't work. The exposure was too much. Like all of this stuff happens, but you don't get to that unless you have regular paths of clarification and review and planning. You don't get ahead if you don't. The other meeting I have is with my digital campus team. Our digital campus team, we try to figure out what works for people in our digital campus. How do we discipleship people in that way? And then the one other thing, now we outsource our social media marketing. I spend probably 45 minutes to an hour sending and going back and talking. And we're like 4 to 6 weeks out with these guys. We are planning so far ahead at this point. And it's all because we have an attitude of fail forward. Everything we try doesn't work. We don't plan to be perfect. God did not make us perfect. It is all right not to work. And I'm all right with us falling forward 70% of the time, because when we get it right, that 30%, it's life changing.
Life changing. Listen, I'm a pastor. This is cool, Kaloma. It's all good. I hear what you're saying, but I ain't got no money for that. I ain't got no. I don't got no resource. I don't even got the people. The people ain't in the church. They complaining about the live stream, but they won't help me do the live stream. I gotta preach, and I got 2 and 3 people up in this church. What am I supposed to do, Kaloma? Take me through it. How do I do this? How many times have you heard? I mean, I'm just speaking like that. I've heard this a million times. Give us a little bit of a blueprint to get us up and running. That's practical. Now we want to get to the practical, right? What can we do? How do we get started? How do we get it moving? Like the reticular motion that we just get the rock rolling, and then it starts to kind of turn by itself. Take us through a little bit of that, bro.
So this is where your values become critical, right? We have been trained that Sunday is the tent pole moment for the church. The reality is the spheres and places we are now in are 24/7. So there's 167 hours during the week. Now, if I take a smartphone and I record a response to a point, or I record something that's nice and then I put it up, that is going to start building out your digital ministry. Don't fight people on the hill they want you to die on.
Yes. Preach.
Start working in the places that they who gonna argue with you that you took your cell phone and recorded a minute to a minute and a half to 2 minute thing and posted it on Reels or TikTok, and you start to speak it to generations. One of the big things we're working on this summer is actually doing more of those videos, because that is where the faith is going. I'm seeing guys that don't even pastor churches, and they're getting 150, 200,000 likes and responses and followings and this and that, because of just saying the truth of God. They just sit back and say, they'll say something like, God did not design you to be broken. God did not design you to be poor. God did not design you to be this and that. And in his word, it declares he has plans to prosper you. And they get 5,000 views.
50,000 views, brother.
So I'll tell you this, DK. Let me explain something about the shelf life of this stuff.
Okay.
So, we hired this new marketing firm. We got great stuff, and they start making sermon video clips.
Okay.
So I'm doing sermon video clips, and they look great. They sound great. They got music in the background. I'm like, oh, we're gonna get 10,000 likes.
Right.
We put that thing out there that first week. I think me, my wife, and my dad liked it. But we now have videos that we've done that are 10, 15, 20,000 views.
Wow.
And they've been out there for 2 years.
Wow. Look at that.
Because you're trying to get instant gratification while God is asking you to build a kingdom.
And kingdom building takes time.
In his due time. Everything we do is building on top of the last thing we did.
The last thing. That's the story that we're talking about.
So like they put out videos. We put out videos with my associate, and I'm gonna show you, it's not about the pastor. It's about the community. So when any of my associates or guest preachers come, we still put out sermon clips. It's not just my sermon clips. It shows the entirety and beauty of the community.
The range too.
And all the voices, because university is not about Kaloma Smith. University is about this amazing community that we're building here that looks like the kingdom of heaven, that have Black and white and Asian and Indian. And God is doing something special in the building.
But you touched on something as to say, we're blessed right now to be able to outsource that company. But just picking up your cell phone, you said, right? Just grabbing that. And I think we've all seen it now with Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, the short form video that's hitting really quick, and it's a shaky camera, and you can hear you can definitely hear what's happening, and it's getting thousands and thousands of views. What is it about that intimacy that now we're going back to those sectors that you're talking about, that intimacy that you get, that behind the scenes footage that you're getting, that you're receiving, that is so that attracts the member to your ministry when it's real, when it's authentic? What is it about that? And how do you achieve that?
I think being your authentic self. So I'm going to make this one of those short videos. It's one of the first ones I've actually scripted out, where you being you and you being authentic is really what people are going to lock into. People know when you're trying to be somebody else.
When you're faking. That's right.
When you change your voice and your pitch, change your dress code, people know. They see it because it doesn't match. Don't put on somebody else's coat. Be yourself. You know what? If God called you, He's designed you to reach a specific audience and a specific ministry. You trying to act like the generation before, or the person on TV, or trying to be something you're not. It's not, the camera doesn't lie. People could smell it. They could smell the BS.
They can. Listen, and you can't, how long can you hold that up? I mean, It's got to be so tiring trying to be somebody else all the time, right?
So,
Be
so,
yourself. You might not be the most eloquent, and again, we're talking about
so DK,
ministries, right? Full ministries. You
yeah,
mean to tell me that there's nothing in your ministry that can be celebrated and shared and should be shared to the masses, that somebody is gonna be they're gonna gravitate towards? That's complete falsehood. There's a question from Miss Maria Evans right now. What do you do when the pastor and the core membership just don't get it? I'm speaking to that right now. I don't.
So this is the thing.
Okay.
Float balloons or do tests in areas that they don't want. Pastor, and I just come by, have you sit in a chair, and you just share what you meant by point one on your sermon. Point one really touched me. Let's do that. Lori on my digital campus, what she did, which is great, is that we used to do a Monday recap when Reverend Tahina was here, and me and her would talk about the sermon on Monday evenings, and that was a great way for people to catch up. But Reverend Tahina moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
Sad about that. But what Lori did was, I have 3 to 4 points every Sunday. She does a video and goes over my points and does like a 5-minute thing, and she just posts that.
Look at that.
Post that right on our digital campus. So I'm pretty tech, but she also knows I'm super busy. So I'm not going to get that done every Monday. Right. But she can do that. She can do that by Sunday afternoon. Right. And it's a phenomenal thing to do. I want to share something about being authentic. I came out of the Greatest Centennial African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church in Mount Vernon, New York, where they bred preachers that could preach. I mean, I remember standing on the pulpit with Bishop Darren Moy and DeAndre and Stephen Singleton and so many amazing like pulpiteers. And I had a very talk to the people style. Even at GC, I would just talk to them. Right. I was just shouting.
You and Simon, you owe it too.
So but talk to them. And I questioned myself in God. I said, God, why would you send me to the preaching Pentecostalist church in A.M.E. Zion Church, and I'm a talker? But I never switched. And I might get a little happy now, but I'm not hooping. But then I ended up coming to a place that my authentic self made sense by being in Palo Alto. So a lot of people are trying to fit something and act like something when God is shifting and moving you to go somewhere where your natural gifting is.
But you got to be yourself.
You got to be yourself.
Through that process to get to where he's shifting you to be, right?
Listen, and it's one of the big, it's one of the big challenges. When you're in a denomination where preaching is central, or a specific style of preaching is deeply honored, and you don't match that, you've got to sit on yourself and say, God, that's it. You call me here. Right. I walk into a church every Sunday that looks like the kingdom of heaven. I may not be the best preacher, but I'll bet you I'm one of the most effective preachers, because I figured out how to reach Asian people. I figured out how to reach white people. I figured out how to reach Indian people. I finished how to black people. I figured everybody's saying, oh, I don't know where the young adults going. My leadership team, the average age is 35. I got nothing but young adults in my church. Like, people like, I don't know where the young adults going. They're in my church.
Right. They came to me. Right.
But I needed to be comfortable with the gifting and authenticness that God has given me. If there's one message, I know we're talking media, market, man, all of that. And one thing I say, being your authentic self is so critical to everything.
It is. In my ministry, same thing. Question yourself, question your worth. Don't know if you're actually making an impact. I'm sure these things, you go to sleep some nights and you're like, I don't know if this means anything to anybody. Is this catching on whatsoever? And then slowly but surely, God starts to reveal certain things, starts to see a little bit of a shift over here, a little bit of a shift over there. And then your worth goes to an all-time high during COVID, right? Because it's like, how we getting this done if you don't got a tech guy like DK? And then now we need multiple ones. And then they're looking for the example in what your leadership brought at one point. So they're going back and looking at those videos. They're like, oh, this is how you do this.
How you do this thing.
Then it starts to make sense. And then it was hard for me to even like see. I didn't know what to look up to. There's few examples. And I hope now you, we're becoming an example. That's the whole point in this whole Media Minds thing, is just to show that there's a long process with this thing.
There's a long process.
But you got to stay exactly what you said, be authentic through the process. Because when you get to where God wants you to be, if you're not your authentic self, it's going to fall. It's going to collapse. And it's not only going to collapse for you, it's going to collapse with everybody else that's trusting you and has you in that position. There are a lot of people are depending on me and you to do what we do in order to survive and do what they do, right? I mean, it's not just making us big and big-headed. It's just understanding that
it's a mantle that God has put on our shoulders.
Right. It's incredibly difficult to be able to navigate all that. Listen, we're winding down on our time. This has been an incredible conversation, Kaloma. I really, Reverend Kaloma, I don't want to call it.
It's all right, Steve. Call me Kaloma. Call me Kaloma. That's the name my mama and my daddy gave me. And
do that for a hot second, man. Take me through, a little bit of just who you are as a person. Give me your favorite song, your favorite color, what's your favorite food. Yeah, I'm just hitting you with softball things before we wrap up here, getting to know Kaloma on another level. Thank you for joining this whole Media Minds thing. Share this video. If you're watching it on demand, go back to the beginning, watch it again, share it again. Look for it every single Tuesday. Kaloma, hit us with a few of those. Favorite ice cream.
Favorite ice cream is definitely rum and raisin. If y'all don't know, I was born in Jamaica. I came up here in 11. My mom is the amazing Reverend Dr. Sandra Cumry Smith. And she is simply amazing woman of God. My father passed away about 2 years ago. But if there's one man that told me just to live in my skin and be who I am, it is him. I have the most amazing wife, which is Lauren Smith. She has been my backbone. She's had my back. She took that jump with me when we moved out here, which was a step of faith for our family. We have a beautiful son that it will be 3 on the 19th.
Super Henry.
Yeah, Henry William Maurice Smith. He's got that good name. He's got all the ancestors in his name. The one thing is my favorite hobby is photography. And I think the reality is that I love just capturing the moments in life, whether it's Henry running around, whether it is a trip. We can do the same thing and just, you're a photographer too. And I think so many people like just capturing the moments of life. We went to
if I could be like something else other than communication director, which I love this position. I love what I do in video wise, but photography is just such a beautiful challenge. It's a challenge, but it's a beautiful challenge to be able to tell a story with just one-off pictures, right? Get the entire scope of the room. Where's your establishing shot, right? Showing the big wide shot, then getting the emotion on people's faces, getting the close-ups, then getting the 2 shots, then getting the caught off guards, then getting the ones where they're looking right at the camera, and being able to thread all that together, and then what we call curate the actual photo gallery, and to be able to put that together on your social. It's an amazing, beautiful challenge. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I challenge everybody to get a hobby that's creative, that forces your mind. The one thing, and this last thing about photography, when I hold that camera up and I'm looking at the shot and I'm trying to take it, because I use a Leica, so it's a little more rangefinder-ish, is everything stops at that moment, but the creative process. and I start looking at the things that God has divinely created, whether it's the environment, whether it's the people, whether it's the conversation, and just taking that story. And I encourage everybody, please have a hobby that forces you to do some level of creativity and just something that makes your mind step away from ministry and life and just focus. So
You can't find another hobby that allows you to stop time like that, right?
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
I mean, you've captured that moment. It's
Exactly.
stopping at that moment, and you can go back to that years from now and look back on that. But
Yeah.
like when you won't be the pastor of university forever, right? I won't be the communications director forever. But trust me, somebody's gonna come after. They're gonna see this moment. They're gonna look at this video, look at that picture, and be able to say, "Wow, that moment actually happened." We do that to this day, and we love it. We love seeing history. Build that story. I'm gonna leave people with this, and then we're gonna get your final thoughts. Reverend Smith, you touched on this. This is powerful.
Hmm.
This thing is so powerful. Get you your phone and get sound, get video, and get photos all in one and begin to start using this thing to its full potential. You know, we talk about potential, the fact that you know that you can do certain things that no one else knows about you, right? And nobody knows you can sing as good as you do, because the minute you start singing, they're gonna put you in the choir. That's what we're talking about with this phone. Most of us are underutilizing this thing.
Hmm.
We don't have the fact that you can put this on a stand and use this as a live stream. It goes directly to live stream,
Hmm.
Facebook Live. You can capture your video on here. You can get great quality footage on here. Maybe it's an investment in a phone other than yours for the church. And guess what? That investment might be a better investment than any huge camera that you ever get. Why? Because it's mobile, right? You're able
Yep.
to take this and pick this up and give this to other people and be able to get high quality coverage for whatever event it is that you're talking about. Utilize these things a little bit more than what you've been doing in the past.
Hmm.
Get these to the younger generation, right? Empower them. I heard what you said, and you kind of said it quick, but you bought cameras and then gave them to people inside your church and allowed them to kind of run with it, right? And
Yep.
get their own perspective of what's
Yep.
going on inside the church. And what does that do? That allows now the full range of your ministry to be showcased when you allow people to work inside their gift areas and things that they never even saw themselves doing in the past.
Listen,
So take us on home, Reverend.
my,
We're gonna get out of here. Leave us with your final thoughts
mhm.
and hit us with that. This has been great, man.
My final thoughts to everyone is pick one thing and start there.
Mm.
Don't talk yourself out of greatness by
Yeah.
looking at the entire thing. So many of us will say, do I need Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok? Just pick one
One thing. That's right.
and just spend time there. Whether you are talking about internal, external market, just pick one.
That's right.
I know you're going to say, well, I need this and that. God will give it to you in time, but you just have to pick one to start planting seeds and sowing seeds.
That's right.
And trust God that that effort into one, it might not be instantaneous,
Mm-hmm.
but just spending time and focusing on that one will get you someplace. When you focus on this one, I dare you to ask yourself this question: how is the message of Jesus Christ being transmitted to people that I've never met,
Mm.
people that are not in my church?
Mm-hmm.
Is this impactful to my community that doesn't know me?
That's right.
And focus on that and go from there.
Wonderful, man. This has been such a blessing. Community, be authentic. These are things that I'll be thinking about in my ministry and what we're doing for the A.M.E Zion Church for days and months and years to come. So I appreciate you, brother, for being who you are, for sharing with us on today, for being a blessing in my life, blessing to the whole denomination, being a great example of kingdom leadership. Especially when it comes to this media side as well. So, man, thank you for joining us. We're gonna have you back on. We're gonna wait for you. We're gonna let it die down and bring you back maybe next year, something like that. And
I'm always,
have you
I
share
will
again.
always make time for you. I will
Yeah,
always make
thank
time.
you, my God. Thank you, my God.
All right.
No, Vernon. All right, yo, I'll put you in the waiting room for a minute, and then we're gonna close on out. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you to Reverend Kaloma. Again, this is Media Minds. We're doing this specifically to give you a little bit of the back end of the practical as to how you get things done, to be able to talk, big picture as to how you organize your media ministries and anything media related. If you have any questions, I'm making myself available. I am CCO at amezion.org. That's CCO at amezion.org. If you have any questions that you want to pose to me as the Chief Communications Officer, or if I can't answer it, we have great people that, like I said, I'm going to be bringing on every single month, on every first Tuesday of the month, that I can even shoot that over to them and maybe they can answer it and get you the best answer to your media related questions, so that we can help you, assist you, get you through this period of virtual space that we found ourselves in, that we got thrust in through COVID. That was always there before COVID, but now we're thrust into it to another level. And we need to be as mindful that we're in this space and begin to implement the practical, real solutions that are going to keep it at a solid quality so that people are blessed across the world, not just in non-denomination, but this is going through the entire Christendom, right? We're trying to reach souls through Christ, and that's the only reason social media is available to a Christian, is to be able to evangelize. So we thank you on today for joining us, on tonight for joining us. And we ask that you, again, please share this video. Tell somebody about Media Minds. Let them know that every first Tuesday, DK, Brother Darren Kent, is going to be coming on with special guests and talking through media-related items. And we're going to continue this as long as we can, to be able to just give you that quality information that you are asking for on the back end. So look forward to things to come in the future. And again, CCO at amezion.org. If you want to hit me directly with any questions, or if you have any ideas or topics that you want us to talk about at Media Minds, just let me know, and we'll definitely attack that on the next show. Thank you again for joining, and you have a blessed rest of your night. God bless you.